Welcome to College MIS Matters, the podcast where we uncover the latest news, insights, and innovations shaping management information systems in further education colleges. Join us as we explore data-driven strategies, tackle key challenges, and share real-world stories to empower MIS professionals like you. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, good evening once again, and welcome to College MIS Matters podcast. Today, we're looking into the latest ESFA updates, and then the main focus, the core part, is looking at curriculum planning, looking at the reporting system that is being created by Robin outside the normal forecast reporting system that we have. Just give you more option on how to effectively help you with your curriculum planning. So first, I'm going to quickly look at the ESFA updates. Obviously, in the past few weeks, there's been so much talk from when the government announced about changes to the apprenticeship system, particularly the functional skills, English and maths requirements, which they did. I think that was Apprenticeship Week, and they gave a lot of like bombshell with a bit of no full details. That everybody was like, "Oh, what exactly is details? Oh, we can't wait." There was a lot of assumption, a lot of talk in all the social media and LinkedIn, and lots of conversation of where guys relax. They've not announced it officially. Obviously, consecutive weeks there's been more detail about what the changes are. So a lot of people probably know more about today and the changes. Today, Wednesday, the 26th of February, in their usual weekly updates. So I'm just going to share my screen and then just look through the updates that they put in together today. Just gone through a little bit. So I'm sharing my, for those that are just on audio only. So I'm sharing what I've got open is the ESFA update further education of the 26th of February, 2025. So we'll look at latest apprenticeship announcement. The part I just want to look at, which is, it obviously says, the DFA announced a number of reforms to the apprenticeship program during the National Apprenticeship Week, which was from 11th of February, 13th of February, and the famous Valentine's Day, 14th of February, which was a Friday. So I'll just quickly look at some of the key articles that has been of interest to everybody. And the first one says, effective immediately, changes to English and math requirement. Notice effective immediately. So looking at the link, I'm sure you can all see my screen. Is that correct, Robin?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even announce Robin. Robin is here with us again. Robin, we'll say thank you once again for joining us in College MIS Matters podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously the changes to English and maths requirements, the government said effective immediately, all new and existing adult apprentices who were aged 19 and over at the start of their apprenticeship training will no longer be required to hold or achieve English and math qualification to pass their apprenticeship. Instead, apprentices will demonstrate their proficiency through the development and assessment of occupationally relevant English and math skills as part of their apprenticeship. It says obviously 16 to 18 learners will still be required to achieve English and math qualification to support their career progression. Funding will continue to be available for English and maths qualifications for all apprentices, including those aged 19 and over, when either the employer or the apprentice feels this is required. Employers and providers will have until the 1st of April 2025 to agree with their existing adult apprentices or apprentices whether to continue or discontinue studying towards English and maths, and will need to update their training plans accordingly. So that's very important to notice, and the cutoff for those that are already doing it. So that conversation needs to happen, and as well the fact that the training plan would need to be updated accordingly. So that's one of the news about that section. The other one was about then that from August 2025, there's the introduction of shorter apprenticeships. So that is from August 2025, subject to the legislative timetable. The minimum duration of an apprenticeship will reduce to 8 months. This change means apprentices will be able to achieve occupational competence more quickly where that makes sense. Again, where that makes sense. For example, because they have significant prior learning or the industry works to a different rhythm. Shorter apprenticeship will benefit apprentices who have significant prior learning, where the 12-month rule means they are currently ineligible to upskill through an apprenticeship. It also benefits all apprentices on certain standards where full competence can be delivered more quickly. It goes further to say, we expect some of the first shorter apprenticeships to be available to level 2 healthcare support workers, and that's health and social care, and level 3 production assistants and in screen and audio under the creative and design, and also the level 2 dual fuel smart meter installer under construction and the built environment. It also says we'll continue to work with employers and Skills England to identify where this new flexibility will create other opportunities and set out more details in due course. And then the other one is the streamlining of the apprenticeships assessment principles. And then I'll just go to the last bullet points, which says from August 2025, payment simplification. This is a very interesting one, of the payments process for apprenticeships training provider. So if I click on the link in there, so it says from August 2025, the Department for Education will begin to remove the data duplication, well, about time, required from providers. Exactly, isn't it, Robin?
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah, because they have to do this job twice and then get them to match, and then they get the delock errors. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a carry on, isn't it?
I know, yeah, for providers to submit overlapping data via both the ILR and apprenticeship service accounts and to receive funding for apprenticeship training. This change will eliminate data mismatches, the popular deadlock between the ILR and apprenticeship service submissions, addressing existing issues for training providers. it will also significantly reduce the administrative burden on training providers and employers. It will improve cash flow for providers, definitely, because delock 1 month, you can't resolve it. It takes 2 months. The income doesn't come into 2 months or until the third, fourth month, because you're having to converse with the employer and sometimes make some weird changes to dates because of some things. So it's very it's something very messy what you have to do to
Time
get,
consuming.
yeah, and time consuming as well. And they say to minimize payment delays and increase data accuracy, and to remove the need for providers to enter data into the apprenticeship service. Wow, brilliant. It will provide a single data source, reducing data locks and speeding up payments to providers while giving DFE faster access to apprenticeship data. Further detail on implementation will follow in due course. We cannot wait to get the further details. Hopefully, it's not another one that's still going to get in not really very efficient. But we should see. Let's give them the benefit of doubt, and something either way will just make sense rather than these D-locks that a lot of people don't even understand. Sometimes there's D-lock and you still get paid and you wonder, wow, how come? And so yes, quite interesting. So Rob, what do you think just generally with some of these the key change, especially the avoiding this data and duplication, overlapping data?
I think having one system that does all of the task is better, where you're not having to you sort of update two separate systems and then try and make them both match. And then you're updating one system, the employer's updating the other system, and you're both having to talk to each other to make sure you're putting the same values in. And if one of the values is different, and then you get the it doesn't match up, and then you get the delayed payment. And there's a lot of backwards and forwards, I think, for people.
Yes,
So I mean,
yeah.
apprenticeships are already the more complicated of the different funding models, and I think it just adds to the complexity and to the issues that people face every day when they're trying to solve the issues, and then in the MIS departments trying to get the errors resolved and then get the payments out. And obviously it doesn't benefit anybody for them to be delayed. So having one system that just does away with the fact that it's almost like having trying to use one person using EBS, one person using Pro Solution, and then trying to get everything to match in both systems. It's just like, what's the point? Why make it more difficult than it needs to be? So yeah, it's a good news, this one, hopefully. And if it works out and it's done in a sensible way, where I mean, really, you want the ILR to be the only system needed, I suppose. Where that's the only system you need to have to inform the government portals, because you find that the government seem to ask for data they've already got because it's a different department that's got it. And I understand data protection and all of that, but if it's the ESFA that have it and they need it for funding reasons, then surely they should be able to access it.
Yeah, exactly. And the other news that is slotting is this residency eligibility for adult learners with an e-visa. This e-visa has been an issue a lot of times, because since they brought this e-visa up, I've had questions from staffs of how do I check eligibility, because the e-visa has very, very minimal data. It doesn't even give a lot of information about the learner's proper visa status, and it's really, really very incomplete for audit purposes. So it's quite interesting that eventually the ESFA has caught up with this e-visa not really meeting the audit requirements as you would have expected, because it becomes not a sole source of eligibility anymore, because it's so basic. So they said the system is used to evidence the type of visa held and or length of residency for the purpose of proving learner eligibility for the Adult Skills Fund. And we'll provide an update on the issue shortly. In the meantime, we ask that you request additional paperwork to confirm status and length of residency from any learners whose e-visa does not provide the necessary information. It's nearly all of them. It doesn't give you the expiry date or so. I can't remember what it doesn't give. It's all of them. Um, so that we expect in most cases the learner will have correspondence from the Home Office when their status was issued, and which may provide further details of status or dates of residence than the current e-visa year. In cases where learners are required to confirm their 3 years residence in the UK and available paperwork from the Home Office does not satisfactorily really confirm the date their residency will commence, which it doesn't, they may be able to provide alternative evidence such as utility bills. Yeah, it's just getting more complicated nowadays. But yeah, we'll see what amendment they bring in respect to these issues with e-visa. So, so that's it from in respect to um, those news, which is just been published Wednesday, the 26th of February, 2025. I'm now going to hand over to Robin Wilson to just put us through this, like usual. We like to see what other people are using to learn and get tips and advice and see what people are going on. And this time is time where curriculum planning is really, really getting to full activity in most colleges in February, where you plan for the following year. I remember a few weeks ago we spoke about progression data, where you want to know which learners is coming in the following academic year. As part of your conversation linked to destination and progression, and so the meetings normally go on as well. So you can know how many learners are coming to particular courses. Is all part of curriculum planning because that will feed into your planning for what you run the following academic year. So without further ado, I'll just now hand over to Robin. He's created a system that basically integrate different other systems, and you can get a much better data and output and also input as well, which because of the connection and slimness and straight easy connection to the other system. So I'll just let Robin give us full details about that. So over to you, Robin. I'll pin you up. Let me unpin myself. There you go. Over to you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Yes. So it's that time of the year when curriculum planning should be in sort of full swing. And obviously the first task is to start with the sort of the collection. So when you're starting curriculum planning, you first need to think about how will it be different to the previous year. It's a general sense. And it could be that there's some new sixth form open, which was going to affect your numbers. It could be a new companies open that you could perhaps partner with. It could be that there's certain age groups you know are going to be larger because of birth rates being larger or smaller. And so it's about planning ahead to really think about where's it going to end up. And then it's doing the planning to get us. And so you really need as much information as possible to be able to make the correct decisions. And so what this report it is, which I'll show it on screen actually, it pulls together information from the different systems because really we've got to think about what information do we have to determine which courses are going to be successful or not, and what we're going to need in terms of the costs and the contribution rates, what they'll look like. So you've got so looking at a course that ran last year. If you're looking at would you want to run this course again next year? You need to look at things like how successful was it last year, which is kind of in looking at the retention and the achievement data from the previous year. and then also looking at the so that's your ProAchieve or your strata system, and then it's also looking at maybe how much funding did it bring in the year. So how much did it contribute to the overall ESFA allocation for this course, and then the different funding models. What was it made up with? Because it might be a mixture of 16 to 19 students, and potentially that same learning aim could have been studied by adults. And then obviously forecast is your main tool where you're putting the information in. But so it's a way of bringing it all together into the one thing. So if I share my screen quickly, so this there's various ways of reporting on the data, but you kind of want to be able to produce something that isn't too complicated for people to look through, because you kind of need to give a lot of information, and depending who you're giving it to and what level of curriculum planning you're at, um, you might vary this a bit, but you what you need really is to be able to monitor the top line, or the bottom line, do you call it, don't you really? It's at the top on the report, but the bottom line. To say this is how much income is coming in. So these are some kind of categories you could have. So costs, total funding cost contribution. So this is the total income that this course will bring in, which could be through funding or the students paying. And this is how much it will cost to deliver it, and that's mainly the staffing costs really, and but also some of the fixed costs, and things like electricity and the having the room. You kind of want to kind of factor everything in as much as possible to give so at the end of the day, to get as close as possible to where the budget's going to end up, I suppose. And then the contribution rate, which is how much is it contributing positively. If you have any negative contribution rates, then that means it's costing you more to run the course than it is to get than the funding you're going to receive on the course. So straight away that would be that would be a red flag. So you want to be that would be a positive, where the income is going to be greater than the costs. And because of course this when you're planning, you kind of need to plan for these are my day one learner numbers, and then these are the likely day 42 learner numbers, because those are the ones where you'll get, if it's 16 to 19, they're the ones that will bring in the funding. And then of course, I mean, even people who are paying fees who drop out, they're not going to pay fees if they've not stayed for more than a week or two on the course. You won't get those fees. I mean, you might say that once they stay a certain amount of time, that they have to pay the full fee, but there's obviously some dropout on every course, some attrition. That's it. So you've got this report starts with, this is the college, because this was a college group where they had a few colleges. So it measures each college, the income, the cost, the contribution for that college, and then it breaks it down the levels below that. And then you've got these are the learners, these are the target learners that we're expecting in the next year. And I mean, again, there's different ways of showing it. You might say there's another report which has, this is the target, and then next to it, this is the actual. But this is sort of summarizing it by, these are all your learners, and then scroll along again. This is all your income for the different funding models,
Mm.
and then this is the delivery staffing costs, and this is how many staff hours we expect. And I mean, the staffing is, I think lower down, it's broken down into different types of lecturer, because you have a more specialist lecturer, where the fee for the specialist lecturers is higher than the less specialized lecturers. And I
Yeah.
mean, it might be quite difficult to get certain specialisms covered, where you're having to pay a premium to get the specialist lecturers in to be able to teach something. I don't know, maybe aerospace, or I don't know how difficult that one is. It sounds like it would be difficult, but I don't know. I don't know if it is, but
No, yeah.
so we've got then the other income. I mean, as well, you might get income from renting out some of your rooms in your college, but whether that goes into this report, because you might not really store that figure anywhere. Um, but you can try and sort of bring in as much income as possible. I suppose that income isn't really going to be affected by curriculum planning, though, because that you could rent out your room Well, I suppose unless you go and use your room, because when you're planning your curriculum and your timetabling, then you can't rent it out because you've used it.
Mm.
But yes, anyway, and then the costs can be broken down. So this says cost fixed one name because when the report is run. So this is an SRS report, as if anyone hasn't gathered. And of course, people are listening to this and not seeing the screen. So yes, it's a big SSRS report, which when run on the report server would generate a spreadsheet,
Mm.
which you could then, you could then do your own calculations in that spreadsheet if you wanted to, and an analysis. So that's the cost breakdown. I'm scrolling along again, and then I've got the other non-learner income, which is the fixed incomes on the end, and that's the first line, which is the college level. Then it breaks it down to the programs of
Program.
study and
Mm.
what faculty they fall into, and then it's
Mm.
kind of repeating some of this information. But when you get down to the more detailed kind of like course level,
Mm.
and then scroll along, then that's
Mm.
when you see here we've got the targets,
Oh.
the things together then for
Mm.
comparison. The more so the headline figures, I suppose, are for the exec team. We don't
Yes.
need to do that level of detail. We just need to know what's the head count so we can know how much income we're going to get. But then
Mm.
obviously then you need to break it down into this is the so this is where we've got the kind of comparison we've got for the ILR 1920. This is how much money was brought in, and if we're looking at this is a course code is
Also,
the lowest level, the
yes.
bottom line. The one above it is
The team
is
is
the
the.
NVQ level within each department or team.
Mm.
So we've got like planned hours, e-powers, if it's devolved or not, the
Mm.
funding, the income, the costs, the contributions. So that bit's the same. And then
Mm.
you're going into a section for each funding model. So you've got this is the so within 16 to 17
Mm.
16 to 17 funded students,
Mm.
that's the total money brought in the 1920 ILR, the total funding brought in. That's come from the FIS, so that's
Oh, yeah.
accurate, and it would match up with people's the college's ILR reports, the
Mm.
final, R14, and
Mm.
then that's the 2021 return to say this is how much money was brought in the following year,
Mm.
and then this is then what the funding and the target enrollments.
Mm. Yeah.
As you can see, this was generated a few years ago. That's why it's got 2020, 21, 22 on it.
Mm.
And then, so this is the target enrollments for 16 to 17, which come
Mm.
from forecast. And then
Yeah.
this is the actual enrollments 16 to 17 from the year before, which comes from your MIS system.
Mm-hmm.
And then the target learners, don't remember what that one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is enrollments and
Yes.
this is learners because
Yes.
when you're counting if you're looking at course level,
Yes.
then it's going to count on every course they're on. So if you're looking at A levels, students will be on, a few A levels. So the
Mm.
enrollment bit is going to be, say, 4, whereas the
Mm.
learner would be 1.
One. Yeah.
So that's going to count. So it gives you a head count and an enrollment count.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think the actual enrollments is the funded enrollment count, so the post 42-day actual enrollments. And
Mm.
then, so those sections repeat for 18 funded, T level funding, and then the 16 to 19 funding total, which pulls it all together as a total of the combination. Then you've got
Mm.
the adult funded, the advanced loans, the other income, and then in forecast you've got separate income lines which you can put in, and then
Mm.
that's breaking that one down as well to different income lines. So that's one of the reports, and then you see on the end of the report after that it's got these are the group sizes, because that's can be quite important as well, because when you're looking at costs of staffing, if you've
Mm.
got lots of little groups, then it's going to put your cost of staffing up and bring your contribution down, because you're going to be
Mm.
paying for more staff
Mm.
with less students. So you want to sort of monitor the group sizes to
Yes.
ensure that you're getting the right number of groups. And
Mm.
I've also done some scripts that take the courses out of forecasting into, sorry, out of Pro Solution or EBS and into forecast. to do the
Mm.
planning, and then when the planning is completed, another script that takes the data out of forecast and puts it back into the MIS system, creating all the courses for the following year from forecast. And then, so you've got the ProAchieve data here. So this is how many levers, this is how many, this is the how many achieved, and this is the achievement rate. You could also bring into this attendance and retention, but I think when you're looking at to avoid getting it even more complicated with more columns, really, last year's achievement, I suppose, is the best indicator. Although the retention would also would help to show you this is what the dropout rate is likely to be, because if you're enrolled, if you have a target of 100 and you get 100, but then you lose 20 of them, and then you've got a retention rate of 80%, then in a way you think, well, if we need 100, we need to really recruit 100 and 120, for example. So then when you lose 20, you might lose a bit more than 20 because it'd be a higher percentage then, but then
Yeah.
you'll try and hit the 100 mark after you've lost the ones that don't stay. And
Mm.
also there's
Yeah.
lots of obviously swapping and changing around at the beginning of the year. So
Yeah.
it's so you're trying to sort of get to a point where it balances out. So that's the one report. And the other report is similar, but presents information slightly differently. I'll just move the video a little bit. I'll put it down there. Um, so that's giving the student numbers summary. So post-solution actual numbers, forecast plan numbers, and the difference. And that's by the different college structure levels. And then you've got last year versus the current year, and then also the current year versus the next year. Give a kind of a good overview, really, of the kind of how it's looking and how it's comparing, because that helps, I suppose, the SLT when they're reviewing this to ask questions to the heads of departments and say, last year we had this, but this year your target is much higher. What's the reason? And they might say, well, it's because we've got this new 3D printer and we've heavily marketed it, and we're expecting to get a lot more students signing up, and we've got the marketing department on board, so they might have a reason, or you might say this number is much lower. Why is that? And they say, oh, it's because the college around the corner, or the sixth form around the corner, is now offering these technical courses, so we expect that we will receive less students coming from those sixth form. Because I suppose then you look at the feeder schools and how many students come, and if that feeder school is suddenly doing something that competes, then
Mm.
you're probably likely to get a lower number of students coming from that feeder school for that particular subject, because I suppose that they'd be, well, they'd be offering the students, you could stay here and do it, and we've got all this new provision, all this new, they've invested in stuff, so it might be quite attractive proposition to stay where they are.
Mm.
So it's just understanding, I suppose, it's like doing a SWOT analysis at the start to say these are the strengths and your weaknesses and the threats and the opportunities,
Mm.
um, to grow where we can and to know where we're going to contract, and be able to grow in other areas to counteract that issue. And
Yeah.
then breaking it down, so we've got the top one is student numbers summary, then the student numbers broken down again by the funding streams. So we've got the different funding streams across there,
Mm.
and apprenticeships as well. And then let's move that back again. And then we've got the funding by funding stream. So that's not the count, but the money.
Mm.
Again, the difference as well, up and down. So obviously, as people are changing the numbers in the forecast software, the reports will be adjusting because it's all live data. So when they run the report again, they'll see the impact of the change. So the student planned numbers by the different categories, and then the total planned income, and then the staffing. So you see here we've got lecturer one, lecturer two, and then I think this was broken down into a few different, and curriculum manager, instructor, and then a few different, then the total staffing at the end, to say this is how much last year. Because you can, what you've got to try and do is you've got to try and get an average price. And the issue, I think, is colleges pay staff maybe all on sort of spot salaries, and they say, well, say what's the average staff cost? And say, well, we can't tell you because everyone's on a different salary. Although, can you add them all up and give you an average? And then you get that average, and you say, well, okay, we can get an average lecturer cost, and then we can look at how many hours teaching is needed and multiply the hourly lecture cost by the number of hours to get this is the staffing cost. And then the other thing this gives you is when you know how many staff you have that are on the establishment report in a department, you'd know then if you've planned stuff, which means not have enough staff. The planning will then inform what agency staff you need to go out to get. So it doesn't come as a shock when you sort of open in September and go, hang on, who's going to teach that? Oh, we haven't got anybody. So again, it's all helping to sort of make sure that it goes smoothly. And then after forecast, the planning stage is complete, then it moves to sort of timetabling. And then at the very end of this report, you've got a summary where this is the target for the academic year, funding, this is the actual funding, this is the plan for next year, expenditure, contribution, and the contribution rate. And then this is the difference between the plan and the actual. And then so I think by combining the different sources of information, you can get a much broader overview and make more informed decisions and plan better because yeah, if the retention is really poor, you know you've got to get a higher number of students. And then if the achievement's terrible, then you might be thinking, well, there's another reason why maybe we shouldn't run this or we need to look at why is it so bad so we can not have the same result next year, because obviously a bad achievement in one area is bringing the overall college achievement down. And there's because kind of a few things at play here. It's mainly about the money and about the planning, the money, side of things. But then it's also you want to have good achievement as well, to try and
Yeah.
get to the point where the college needs to get to, I suppose.
Yeah. So what the think about the technicality behind this? So what systems behind it? Where is input? Where is the output? Where is the processing done for this report? What the input, the processing, so the calculations are done here in and then the output is the Excel file that is exported from the report. What so this is forecast. For example, forecast is the main where the data is entered into by the user, by the staff, right?
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, forecast is the planning tool where people put the figures in. So if you look at this, so they'd probably have the report on one screen, and then they'd have forecast on the other screen, and then they'd be probably looking at the report, and then that would help to sort of highlight where they need to sort of look in forecast and make sure they have got the right numbers in, and it's reporting as needed. And if there's, I suppose, a big variance to last year, that they've got a reason. So when they go into their meetings they've got to then be able to justify, I suppose, any differences. And they say, well, why is
Yeah,
this lower? Why is this higher? But like they may do the thesis return, and then you get quizzed
yeah,
by the thesis. So you need to be able to say, well, I know why this is
yeah,
higher, or I know why this is lower. So you've got forecasts coming in, which is obviously the curriculum planning software. You've got the FIS, the ILR, which is stored on the database server when you upload the file when you process it,
mm,
and then because you've got that down as course level,
yeah,
because in the provided specified monitoring delivery fields, you've you've got the course code in one of them,
yeah,
and then you've got the course code obviously in your MI system, and then you've also got the course code in forecast. It might be the course code in forecast is the course code in its next year's iteration, which might be that it's got to when it will like it might start 2.4 somewhere, but next year it might start 2.5. So you
mm,
might need to do something on the course code where you take the first it's characters 5 and 6,
mm,
convert them to a number, -1 to them, and put it all back together so that you can link up the course code next year with the course code this year. Well, of
mm.
course, you can do it by learning aim as well, but by doing it by course code is
It's
it's quite
most
quite
okay, yeah,
useful. And then
yeah,
you've got so all those systems can then link up. So the MI system will give you these are the current enrollments,
mm,
and then the funding's giving you this was the funding in the current or
mm,
previous year, and then forecast is saying this is what you're planning next year. So by
yeah,
tying it all together, and then ProAchieve as well is giving you this is the current achievement rate for this year, and then you can also then say, well, this is the rate for last year. So you're getting a
mm,
nice trend in there to say
mm,
this is so. So I mean, if you've got a 2 or a 3 year trend, in
Yeah.
there, and then the numbers are kind of generally the same in a particular subject, and then they're suddenly higher or lower, then
Yeah.
it's going to be, because it might be that they vary a lot each year for whatever
Mm.
reason, maybe because whatever course they would feed into this next course,
Yeah.
maybe that's not running this year or whatever. There's the reason
Yeah.
why you're going to get a lower number. If you've got a 2 or 3 year trend there, then you've
Yeah.
got quite a good picture of, and then anything that varies from those previous years is the
Yes.
things that you
So
target.
yeah. So I just want to ask about technical part of it. So what you have there is linking to the forecast database SQL server behind the scene.
Yeah, that's right. So it's all the
Yeah.
SQL database is all being
Yeah.
linked together, and it's all run live when the report runs as well. And it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
take too long to pull it all together.
Yeah. So all these formulas here, the formulas that is obviously agreed by the college, because like you said, Focus has its own report that does calculation in the forecast. So why would someone not choose the export from forecast with calculation and use this one? What would be the advantage of using this instead of the export from forecast?
I mean, I suppose one of the advantages is that if you need the kind of the current enrollment numbers, and you need
Yes.
the current retention achievement amount, and you need what the funding is, because
Mm,
I suppose when you're doing the curriculum planning like now, if for next year you're still running your ILRs for the current year, and then there's still
mm,
new learners enrolling, so you kind of need up-to-date figures. So you could put all your figures into user-defined fields in
yes.
forecast,
Yeah.
but then when you run your report, they quite quickly get out of date. So you
Yeah.
then got to either refresh all your figures in forecast,
Mm,
or just have a report that is running from the different systems, so that as soon as you refresh ProAchieve by putting a
yeah.
new file in, or as soon as students enroll to courses in Pro Solution, it's then counting. Because I suppose what you're aiming for is this is the end position of the
Mm,
20, like 24, 25,
yes. Yeah.
which you want to compare to what you're planning for next year. Because some courses, I suppose, started later in the year,
Yes.
and some courses might not even have started yet. But
Mm,
for next year, your plan is obviously for everything, including the courses
mm,
that don't start in September. So
yes.
I
So
suppose as you get closer towards the end of this year, you should
mm,
be getting closer to your planned numbers for next year.
yeah. So yeah. So again, yeah. So basically, you've got forecast server behind the scene. You've got ProAchieve server behind the scene, database behind the scene. You've got your live student record system behind the scene, and you've got fees. So this report is feeding from those, let's say, four systems in that case. And that is, like I said, the advantage. No, so you put your input in forecast, you've got the key and your identifiers, the key data, for example, like you said, the course code that you input in the forecast. I've got your fees that's got the course code in there. I've got your live enrollment system that's got the course code in there. And you have your, what have I missed out? One more system, ProAchieve forecast, your
ProAchieve.
enrollment, and then the fees. So you have those. So this system is now doing its own calculation based on those raw data. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, you could have been the allocation in as well, because obviously you'd have your allocation, so you'd always
Mm.
also be
You-
planning against the allocation, but you might be
yes.
planning to over deliver on the allocation
Yeah.
to get more the next year.
Okay, brilliant. So yes, so I think that is very, very clear. I'm sure, as usual, if any more questions, people can get in touch with us with Robin. But again, the whole idea is to showcase how you can help your curriculum planning. But in this scenario, this is using forecast and also connecting to your live data, which means your data, what you're looking at in this report, is live and more accurate, unlike where you have to keep importing or export importing to forecast your data. But here it is live, linking live to other your data, your enrollment system, which is a big advantage. And yeah, so yeah, I think we'll just end there for today. Thank you very much, so much, Robin. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, so that's really very useful.
Oh, can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
Just the if anyone's using the Excel CSV import and export tools, I've had some feedback on some improvements to make to those. and so I've made the improvements. And one is that people wanted to be able to specify a different schema, because obviously in a database, the default schema is DBO.
Mm,
Um, but sometimes people create their own schemas like reports or something else. So they want to be able to save the table
mm,
to a different schema. And so now you can. And then also people the file the database table name. So if you use the tool to upload a spreadsheet, whatever the spreadsheet was called, or the tab in the spreadsheet was called, it would use that as a name of the table it created. But now you can specify manually a table name that you would like to have instead in the
mm,
config file, and it'll use that table. Because I suppose the thing is spreadsheets and CSV files are getting created automatically,
mm.
and it saves sort of manual intervention afterwards to sort of have to do something later. Whereas if the tool can kind of do the whole job, which is the idea with this really.
Yes.
So just as a refresher, it can pull a file from an FTP that you want to import from a cloud system. It can then import that file into your database, and
Mm,
then you can set it up automatically to run on a nightly basis. And it does the other way around as well, to export your data from your database, which could be ProSolution, Forecast, any system, and then upload it or download it to a folder, and then also optionally send that data off to an FTP server remotely. So yeah, that's been updated as well, just yesterday, 20 hours ago,
yeah.
from the link.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Robin. So we're going to end for today. Again, we hope you've benefited from that. Again, make sure you subscribe, follow us on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on all our various podcast platforms so you can get the latest as soon as we update it. So thank you and goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.